Sometimes life breaks you in a way that feels unfair. It hurts, deeply, silently, and often when no one's watching. But today is the day you stop carrying the weight of someone who walked away. Because healing isn't just about forgetting, it's about remembering your worth. There was a time you thought love meant shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's version of perfect. But the truth, you were never meant to be small. You were bold, you were light, and you are worthy of a love that doesn't ask you to beg for attention or prove your value. So let this be your turning point. Cry if you must. Scream into your pillow. Sit in silence. But promise yourself one thing. Don't go back to what broke you. You don't need closure from someone who never saw your heart clearly. You don't need validation from silence. You don't need to be chosen to be enough, as you are enough now, as you are raw, real, rising. You get to write your story again. You get to choose yourself every single time. And from this moment on, your healing is not a maybe, it's a must. You are not broken, you are rebuilding. So walk forward, not with bitterness, but with boundaries, not with revenge, but with radiance, not with shame, but with strength. But with strength, your heart didn't lose, it learned. Sometimes we hold on to pain, not because we enjoy suffering, but because letting go feels like losing a piece of our identity. You get used to carrying the weight of the memories, the what ifs, and the imagined future that never arrived. But healing doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It begins the second you decide, this is no longer mine to carry. You don't need to wait for permission to heal. You don't need an apology to start over. What broke you wasn't the ending. It was believing that your worth depended on someone else's choice to stay. Letting go doesn't mean erasing the past. It means choosing not to let it define you anymore. It means waking up and saying, I deserve more than this ache in my chest. It means taking the pain out of your bloodstream and turning it into strength, even if the world doesn't understand your silence, even if they don't see the tears behind your smile. You know the truth, you showed up fully, and that was brave. And now it's time to show up for yourself. You don't need them to come back, you need you to come back stronger, wiser, clearer, and that healing, that begins now. There's a moment, maybe in the middle of the night or in the silence between songs, when it hits you. You were waiting for someone to notice how much you were hurting. You were hoping deep down that maybe they turn around and finally see all that you gave, all that you sacrificed, all that you became, just to be loved back the same way. But that moment also reveals something deeper, that you don't need their presence to feel valuable. Your worth doesn't shrink just because they stop choosing you. You're not only worthy when someone else sees it, you've been worthy all along, even in the moments you forgot it. Your value isn't up for negotiation. It's not determined by text returned or love that stays, and it's in the way you wake up after being shattered, in the way you keep believing in kindness, in the way you keep showing up for yourself, even when no one else does. You don't need someone else's eyes to validate your reflection. You don't need to be held to feel whole. That feeling of being enough, it has to come from within, not from the echo of someone else's approval. And when you realize that, truly realize it, something shifts, the ache starts to loosen, and your heart begins to breathe again. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't scream, it just lingers. It hides behind your smile, in the quiet moments, in the pauses between conversations. It's the kind of hurt that makes you wonder if you'll ever feel like yourself again. But here's the truth no one tells you enough. You're not broken, you're rebuilding. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And every time you've been let down, every time you were left standing alone, that wasn't the end of your story. That was your beginning. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be perfectly healed to be strong. Healing is messy. It's nonlinear. Some days you'll feel powerful, and some days the sadness will surprise you all over again. That's okay. Because strength isn't about pretending you're fine. It's about honoring your process. It's about waking up even when it hurts. It's about saying, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was either. The version of you that's rising now, she's wiser. She's softer in the places that matter and tougher in the ones that protect her peace. The pain didn't defeat you. It carved space for growth, for rediscovery, for truth. This season may feel like breaking, but it's actually becoming. And every piece of you is learning how to stand taller on your own terms. There's a version of love we're taught to believe in, one where we give endlessly, where we prove ourselves just to be seen. Or we try to earn someone's attention like it's a prize. But that's not love. That's survival. That's shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone and calling it connection. You should never have to chase someone to stay. You should never feel like you have to silence your feelings to keep someone close. The right love won't ask you to be quiet. It won't ignore your needs. It won't make you feel like you're too much or not enough. Real love doesn't put conditions on your worth. It doesn't ask you to dim your light so someone else can shine. It meets you where you are, fully, honestly, respectfully. It celebrates your voice. It listens when you're hurting. It stands beside you, not above or behind. You are not meant to be a backup plan or an option. You are not meant to compete for someone's heart. You are meant to be loved in a way that feels like peace, not pressure, in a way that lifts, not drains and drain. And if something or someone ever made you feel like you had to constantly prove you were enough, know this: you never had to. Because real love never asks you to be less than who you truly. There's a moment in every healing journey when you realize the person you've been waiting for is you. Not them, not their apology, not their return, just you, your love, your presence, your decision to finally put yourself first. Maybe for the first time in a long time. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're no longer abandoning your own needs to meet someone else's comfort. It means you're no longer staying silent just to keep the peace. It means you're not extracting crumbs and calling it a feast. You don't need to be saved. You need to be seen. You need to be seen by yourself. Every flaw, every scar, every ache, every strength. You get to look in the mirror and say, I deserve more. And not just say it. Believe it. Live it. Protect it. Every time you choose your peace over chaos, every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, every time you listen to your gut instead of your guilt, that's healing. That's growth. That's self-respect in action. And no matter how shaky it feels at first, keep choosing you. Keep standing up for your heart. Keep making decisions from a place of love for yourself, not fear of losing someone else. Because when you choose yourself truly consistently, you teach the sometimes the hardest part of healing is accepting that the apology you've been waiting for may never come. The closure you hoped for might stay silent, and the answers you thought would set you free, they might never be spoken. But here's the truth. You don't need closure to move forward. You don't need someone else's explanation to understand your worth. Not everyone is capable of owning their damage, and it's not your job to carry their unspoken regrets. You may never know why they changed, why they pulled away, why they stopped seeing the light in you, but that doesn't make your love any less real. Doesn't make your heart any less good. What you can know is this: you showed up with honesty. You loved deeply. You gave what you could, and that is enough. Closure doesn't come from their words. It comes from your decision to stop needing them. It comes from the day you stop rehearsing the past and start reclaiming your future. You don't have to wait for someone else to free you. And you are already free the moment you stop asking for what they were never ready to give. And in that freedom, you begin to remember your story never needed their permission to keep going. Healing is often misunderstood. People think it's this neat, beautiful process, like one day you wake up and everything makes sense again. But the truth is, healing is messy. It's not linear. Some days you feel like you've moved on, and then out of nowhere, a memory hits you, and it feels like you're starting all over. And that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to rush to be over it. Healing isn't about pretending the pain didn't matter. It's about slowly learning that you matter more. It takes strength to sit with the ache and not run from it. It takes courage to unlearn the habits you built just to survive. And it takes incredible bravery to say, I'm not okay, but I'm working on it. That is healing. It's in the quiet choices. The texts you don't send, the places you don't revisit, the boundaries you finally honor. It's in the mornings you get out of bed, even when your heart still hurts. It's in the way you begin to trust yourself again, little by little. You may not be exactly where you want to be yet, but look at how far you've already come. That progress, no matter how small it feels, is a sign of your strength. You are healing. Not perfectly, not quickly, but truthfully. And that is more than enough. It's natural to want justice when someone hurts you. It's human to imagine that one day they'll realize what they lost, or the weight of their choices will catch up to them. You picture them scrolling through your photos, remembering your laugh, aching in the places they left empty. And maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But here's what you have to ask yourself. Is that the life you want to wait for? Because revenge, even the quiet, emotional kind, will only keep you tied to what wounded you. When your thoughts are wrapped around proving something to them, you're still living in the shadow of what broke you. And you weren't made to stay there. You weren't meant to carry bitterness. You weren't built to hold on to things that drag your spirit down. That's not where your healing lives. Your healing is found in peace, the kind that doesn't need to be loud, doesn't need to be announced, doesn't even need to be understood by anyone else. It's the kind of peace that whispers, I am enough. I survived. I don't need you to see it. I see it. There's a unique kind of strength in choosing to let go of resentment, not because they deserved your grace, but because you deserve your freedom. You deserve soft mornings without the weight of memory. You deserve to laugh without a flash of guilt or pain. You deserve to move on without needing someone to fall apart first. When you choose peace, you start shining again. And not just in that surface, Instagram highlight way. You shine from within, in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you treat others, even when you're hurting, in the way you refuse to become what hurt you. And that's not weakness, that's power. Quiet, grounded, undeniable power. You don't need to seek revenge. Your growth is the answer. Your growth is the answer. Your radiance is the return. Your joy after everything is the most beautiful response you could ever give to pain. There comes a moment in your healing where you stop asking, what did I do wrong? And start asking, what do I need to protect? That shift is powerful. It's not about building walls around your heart. It's about building boundaries around your peace. Because pain changes you. It opens your eyes. It teaches you who shows up for you, who drains you, and who only loved the version of you that was convenient. And while that kind of clarity hurts at first, it eventually becomes the greatest gift you could ever receive. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about keeping your energy sacred. They're about knowing that your time, your kindness, your presence, those things are valuable. They're not for everyone. And that's not cruelty. That's self-respect. You begin to realize you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to stop explaining yourself. You're allowed to walk away from chaos without guilt. You're allowed to take your time responding, to cancel plans that exhaust you, to stop letting people's opinions define your worth. And most importantly, you're allowed to outgrow people, even the ones you once loved deeply. Growth doesn't always look like forgiveness and reunion. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like loving people from a distance. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to go back, no matter how nostalgic the past feels. Your boundaries are not a betrayal to anyone. They're a promise to yourself. Because when you start honoring your needs, when you stop tolerating emotional clutter, when you make space for peace, that's when healing becomes real. You're not heartless for protecting your heart. You're not. You're not cold for learning from pain. You're not cruel for walking away from patterns that once felt familiar. You're evolving, and that's exactly what you were meant to do. This version of you is no longer afraid to disappoint others to stay true to herself. This version of you understands that your energy is currency and not everyone gets unlimited access to it. And when you live from that truth, everything changes. Your peace deepens, your voice strengthens, and your life finally starts to feel like yours again. There's a kind of wisdom that only pain can teach. A depth you reach not from being loved easily, but from learning how to love yourself through the hardest goodbyes. You didn't lose when things ended. You didn't fail because something fell apart. What happened wasn't the breaking of you, it was the becoming. You see, sometimes the most important growth comes in silence, when no one is watching, when no one is watching, when no one is validating your journey, when you're quietly rebuilding everything that was torn down. That's where strength is born, not in the spotlight, but in the stillness. In the decision to stand up one more time, in the quiet refusal to give up on yourself. Every tear you cried taught you something. Every sleepless night built a new layer of depth inside you. Every time you picked yourself up without a hand to hold, that was you rising. That was you finding the strength that no one could give and no one could take away. And now you carry something different. Not just hurt, but healing. Not just loss, but lessons. Not just heartbreak, but a heart that knows its own value. You've been through things that could have made you bitter, but instead, they made you softer in the right ways and sharper in the ways that protect you. You've stopped begging for understanding and started seeking alignment. You've stopped chasing people who couldn't hold your heart and started creating space for people who can. The truth is, you outgrew a version of yourself that needed to be saved. You don't need saving anymore. You need support, sure, but not because you're broken. Not because you're broken, because you're building something bigger than pain ever was. Your peace. You are no longer the same. You don't respond the same. You don't tolerate the same. And that's not being guarded. That's being aware. That's being in charge of the energy you allow, the love you receive, and the life you're creating. The chapter ahead of you, it's not about proving anything. It's about owning everything, your scars, your silence, your strength, your softness. It's about showing up as the woman who walked through fire and came out glowing. Not perfect, but powerful and finally free. So if you take one thing with you, let it be this. You are not defined by what you've lost. You are defined by what you've survived, what you've rebuilt, and what you've become. Let your story be a reminder that healing is not a destination. It's a daily choice. And choosing yourself every single day is the most courageous thing you'll ever do. You are not too much. You're broken. You are not behind. You are becoming beautifully, unapologetically, and empoweredly on your own terms. And that is more than enough and enough.